Hello, welcome to Draw With Me. I'm Danny Gregory, and it's Thursday morning, and as we do every Thursday and have for, I think it's like 3 or 4 years now, we get together and we just draw some stuff. It always varies. It doesn't matter if you've never drawn before. It doesn't matter if you're incredibly good at drawing. All that matters is that you show up and you draw at least once a week, just to have some fun. And so as you saw, we drew caterpillars and the moths they become last week. And just some incredible examples of that. Beautiful, beautiful moths, caterpillars, composition, colors. Brilliant, beautiful. Thank you so much. And it's nice to know that you can take something like a moth or even a caterpillar that you don't think of as being particularly gorgeous and have fun drawing it and make something beautiful out of it. So let us plan on doing that again. Hey, so some folks are new to do this. Monica is on day 99 of 100 Days of Art. That's phenomenal. That is really good. It's a great commitment to make. So yes, I see a lot of people making bone puns. We are going to be drawing bones today. And let me just prepare you. If you want to get your stuff together, all you'll really need is a pen and some paper. It doesn't really matter if you don't have any amazing art supplies. But if you have amazing art supplies and you want to draw with a brush or with, I don't know, if you want to spray paint bones on the wall of your neighbor's house, you could do that. If you want to, I don't know, if you're a tattoo artist and you want to give somebody a tattoo of bones while during the show, you can do that. Or if you want to just draw with, a pen that you picked up for free at the bank on the back of an old envelope of your gas bill, you can do that too. Whatever you want to do, the main thing is just to have fun drawing, and whether it turns out well or not doesn't really matter either. It's just about getting together and doing stuff together. So today we are sponsored by Edding. Edding is a wonderful pen company, relatively new to the United States. They have been in Germany for about 50 years making beautiful pens. And today we are going to be celebrating the E55 fineliner, which comes in all these gorgeous colors. It's a new pen to me. I love the Edding fineliners generally, but this set is all in different colors. And I don't know of any other fineliners that are colored like this. They are they all come in the same size, which is basically a 0.3, so kind of middle of the range. Nice thickness. I love the look of them too, with those stripes. And what else? They're water-based, so you can't necessarily watercolor over them. But I don't know. I've been working with them all week, and I really like them. They are really a nice pen, and we're going to be using them today. So that's the E55. They come in a set, in a box. You can buy them individually, I think, but they come in a box. And you will know that because we're going to be giving away a bunch of them. We're going to be giving away a bunch of these. They come in a nice metal box. And if you would like to get or to be considered for these E55s, write to us. You can email us at info@sketchbookschool.com and give us a U.S. mailing address. If you don't have a U.S. mailing address, we can't send it to you because we're sponsored by Edding USA. You can also write to us at our post office box if you prefer, and just tell us what sounds interesting to you about this. Why would you think you'd want to try these out? Write to us, and we will randomly pick some and send them to you. So yeah, that's the E55. We're also sponsored, I guess, by Twiglet. Twiglet here is excited, as you can tell, by this stack of copies of You Do You, which is my new book that just came out about a week and a half ago. I'm glad to see that it is now #1 on the Amazon drawing paperbacks list or something, or drawing new books on drawing. I don't know. But it is, people seem to like it and seem to be buying it. And I see some people here, Janet Boyer has gotten it. She enjoys it. Let's see, is anybody else mentioning that they got it? I don't know. I hope some of you have. Somebody's made it number one, so hopefully it's you. You've helped to do that. So it is a book of my essays about creative things, creative matters. If you would like to get them collected into a book, which a bunch of people have asked me to, they are here. And they're illustrated by me. So yes, Catherine has one, and I think Charmin has one too. So yes, Sandy says you should mention that P.O. boxes are not what? Are not deliverable. I'm not sure what that means. But yes, you just need a mailing address. So I don't know. All right. Deborah has hers too. Okay, so yeah, if you'd like to get one, go to my website, dannygregory.com, and order one. It also is available as an ebook if you prefer. So if you want to just get it and carry it around with you on your phone or on your iPad, you can do that too. All right, so there we go. So today, we're going to draw bones. I haven't drawn bones in a while, but basically we're going to draw a skeleton made up of bones. And I was looking at different kinds of bones, skeletons. I looked at a dog skeleton, a cat skeleton, a cow skeleton, a hippo skeleton, an elephant skeleton, all interesting, but also mildly depressing and reminiscent of death. It's inevitable, right? Skeletons remind you of Halloween. They remind you of death. But I decided that I would select some dinosaur instead. Excuse me. Dinosaurs are creatures that we really only know through their bones. So let's have a look at a triceratops. Here we have a nice triceratops skeleton. A really kind of a fantastic object to draw, don't you think? It is kind of daunting in its complexity. And you might look at it and say, I'm worried that I can't draw this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to draw it bone by bone. Bone by bone, you can draw. Look at a lot of these bones. The skull, relatively complex, but we're going to break it down. We're going to make it simple to draw. And then you look at every other bone. They're basically little rectangles. So we can draw them all, right? We can draw bone by bone. So let's grab a pen. And what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to cycle through different colors because I'm obsessed with these colors. Look, I did a little color chart here. Where is it? Somewhere in my book here. Yeah. So here are the colors. And to have fineliners that are those colors, I think that's pretty cool. Those are, a yellow fineliner, pretty unusual. Really cool. So I'm thinking I'm going to go bone by bone, but I'm also probably going to go color by color. And Ingrid says it looks difficult. Janet says she just thought we'd be drawing femurs. Well, we will be drawing femurs, but we'll be drawing all kinds of things. So let's get out of our minds that it's difficult. Okay? If you're new to drawing with me, there are a few rules, and they are very rigidly applied. One of the rules is it doesn't really matter if you do it well or not. In fact, whenever I look at the cavalcade of drawings that other people have done before me, that I show at the beginning of the show, I often think, God, these people are way better at this than I am. Yes, you know what? I don't care. I draw the way I draw. You draw the way you draw. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. So let's just get that out of our minds initially. And is it too challenging? Again, you're looking at the forest, but we're going to draw tree by tree. You're looking at the skeleton. We're going to draw bone by bone. Okay? You with me? Are you buying my spiel? I hope so, because it's right. Do you have a link for the reference image so I can pull it up on a larger on the screen? No, I don't. I'm afraid I don't. If you want to, I would just say Google, what is this thing again? I just said what it is. It's Triceratops. Google Triceratops skeleton, and this thing will probably pop up. Okay, so Ingrid, don't be intimidated. It's going to be good. As Seibutsu is saying, there is no bad art. Although there are times that I've said, really, what the hell do you call that? But okay, so let's begin. So I'm just going to draw. I'm going to draw on this. I'm going to draw probably here. I'm kind of thinking about this, the overall page. Let me just pop this away again for 1 second. Think about the whole page. You know, where do you want this to sit on the page? And we're going to do 2 skeletons. One of them is kind of this shape, and one of them is going to be longer and thinner. All right, so if you're just thinking about your overall page, think about that. Okay. So here's the Triceratops back. I think I'll start with black, and just drawing that first part of his nose. Then I'm going to go up, and there's a little triangle there. And then I'm going to come down, and I'm going to draw the other triangle. And then I see that this line continues sort of to seem continuous with this thing. Okay? Now I'm going to draw the hole. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to draw the hole outside of him, because what I'm concerned about is the length and the width. So the length of his nose and the width of it. So first one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to measure it. I took my pen and I held it up against the screen, and I put my finger there and I measured him, and it is this high from the base of his jaw to the top of his triangle nose. That little horn there, it's about that. So it's about that size. You see that? Now I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to measure the length of it. And I see that, I can't really show you here, but basically if you look at this little hole that's right there, from there to the end is the same as from there to the bottom. So I'm going to be drawing these little holes inside because they are sort of giving me some kind of proportion advice, because they're little landmarks. So I'm just kind of drawing down there. So again, these are all just pretty simple shapes. And then I look at this kind of hole here, this little circle, and it comes back up. Basically comes around, right? And then this line, there's a line here that sort of continues down there. So now I come down to the bottom here. I draw that little piece there. I come back up, and I come around. Now there's another little line here like this, and another little line that comes here on the bottom. See, so I'm just having a little conversation with myself as I'm doing this. And I'm saying to myself, I think I already made this part a little too narrow. And so I'm not quite correct. And I also say to myself, I don't really care. Because you know what? Unless some sort of dinosaur bone expert, what are they called? Is it an archaeologist? No, what are they called? Ichthyologists? I don't know. Unless somebody comes to check my work, nobody's going to really know that I've made some mistakes. It doesn't really matter. It'll still come together, and it'll look pretty much like a dinosaur skeleton. Because honestly, I've never really looked carefully at this before. So I don't think I would ever know if I'd made an error. But I just look at each line and go, okay, this is the line that's sitting next to that one. Let's come back here and look at this. And I say, okay, there's a little line here. comes down here like that. I do like this pen because it's a really nice solid fine liner. My lines are completely consistent, which is nice. So now I'm looking at whatever this line is here. One of the things that's good about this subject is because I don't really know much about it, I'm not even giving these things names. I'm just sort of saying like that's a little kind of lozenge shape thing, and then there's a little circle here, and now there's this part that comes down and it arcs back here, and then now I'm going to be brave and I'm going to take this big line down here, and I'm going to come around and I'm going to draw the bottom part here, and I'm going to come back up, and ba-boom, I'm connected. And now I'm going to draw this line that sits on the top here. And I've made this part a little bit too narrow, so I don't have the room in there. So you know what? I don't really care. I'm just going to redraw it. And then I'm going to blend. I'm going to take this line that was a mistake, and I'm going to turn it into this inside part of the jaw. And then I'm going to make these little teeth in here. Look how tiny those teeth are. So that's basically that front part of the skull. And then I'm going to come back up here, and I'm going to connect. Where does that line connect? I look back up here, I see where this line connects, and it goes there. So I kind of got it. Again, I think my suspicion is it's a little bit narrower than it should be. A little bit narrower. But let's measure it now. I'm going to measure this part, and I'm going to compare it with that part. And actually, it is pretty much correct. So despite my concerns, when I stop to measure it, it actually works. Okay? So if you're at all nervous about that, don't be. Now I have to draw this horn. This horn is coming up like that. And I'm going to say to myself, you know what I'm going to draw is the negative shape. So I'm going to draw the edge of that black shape that comes in here. I'm going to try and draw that black shape. In other words, draw the background. But I do want to say, where does the tip of that horn end? And it ends, if I drew a line straight down, it ends about here. See? So I want to arc up here. I think it's kind of like that. Right? Because I look at this negative shape, and it's pretty much like that. And now I can come back here, come back down to the skull, and now draw this other line that runs more or less parallel to it, but it stops short, and then it comes back, and it goes in a bit, and there it is. That's more or less that. And then this part of the horn kind of continues down a bit. And see, now I know where the eye is, because the eye is right here. There. That eye has some little lines inside of it. There's some other lines here. And I'm not going to, I could do some shading here, but I think I'm not going to. I think I'm just going to keep this sort of 2D. I'm just drawing the contours of the outsides of these shapes. Now I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to start drawing this back part of his skull. There seems to be some kind of like a little, is that an ear hole or something there? And then I look here and I see, okay, this part of his kind of whatever this back horn thing, this little almost sail at the back is. Again, I'm looking at that negative shape, and I realize, okay, I've gone too far here. So I'm going to measure again. I'm going to measure how long is that sail. So this length here is about the length of this back part of the sail. I'm calling it a sail. What would you call this? The back of his skull, I guess. That kind of shape. Weird protective shape. And then this kind of wraps back and around and connects there. There's like a little bit of a loop in there. That's kind of it. Good enough. It's a frill, Jane says. Okay, it's a frill. So, all right. We've kind of got this down, right? I'm just double checking my work. Seems pretty good. I think I'm going to switch colors. Maybe I'll switch to a blue. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw individual bones. I mean, really the hard work is done. But what's nice about having this is we can anchor everything else to it. We can anchor it to it. So I'm going to look and I'm going to say, okay, there's this little, I guess it's like his shoulder blade or something like that that's coming down here. And then it goes back up. And then it sort of seems to go inside here. And there might be a little line here. There's a couple little lines. I don't really know. But my conceit is I'm going to try and draw each bone with a different color. So then there's like a little rib thing here. I don't know what that is in there. And then there's probably another one in here right next to it. Are you with me? Are you seeing each of these individual things? And then right behind that part that came down, there's some sort of roundish bone. Maybe it's like a joint of some kind. Shoulder joint or something. And then there is another bone that sits right behind here that is at the top of his leg. And I'm looking also at this negative space because I'm thinking I'm making his legs a little small. So that's okay. I'll just compensate by making this next one just a little tiny bit bigger, just so I don't start going overboard with my size of my things. And so each of these little bones is just a shape, right? It's just a pretty simple shape. You can draw a simple shape like this. And then I look at this kind of his upper arm, and it kind of curves back and has a little ball there. So these little ball joint there at the top of his thing. And then his toes. So I look at his toes and I think, okay, they're kind of parallel to the bottom of his jaw, and I'm pretty much correct with that. You don't want to make his legs too short or else he'll be dragging his mouth along the ground like some kind of a weird primeval bulldozer. And now there's another little toe. And it has a little tip on the end. A little second bone there. And then I'm going to go to another one here that is arcing back in the opposite direction. So there, I've got his leg done. Now let's go back up to the top here and look at this sort of larger, almost triangular shape thing that then goes like that, and then it scoops up. And it's a little hard to tell what's going on in the shadows back there. I'm just going to kind of make some stuff up back there. There's some bits and bobs in there, but I can't really tell what they are. And, I'm going to use my yellow now to, what is this shape here? It's sort of, is it the top of a thing? Yeah, I guess it is. It's the top of his other bone. So this is the back foot, and now we're drawing the front leg, front arm. And Ooh, I thought that was the end of it, but it's not. That's actually just a line that's running across that. Is it a femur? I don't even know. Yeah, I think this is all one piece. It just happens to have some lines running across it. Like maybe they like painted on lines or something. Or maybe they're probably like the bits of rod that are holding it up. And let's look at this negative space here. I'm kind of a bit worried about it. So now I'm drawing this bone here. I'm going to make it actually a little excessively large because I'm afraid that I made this upper one too small. And I'm looking at where it lines up, and it kind of lines up there at the bottom of that other wrist. So it's like that. And then there is this big chunky bone back here. Second part of his upper arm, I guess. Oops, I actually used the same color twice and they connected. That's not good. Got to remain consistent. But yeah, these two bones are coming down the right ways. I mean, they're sort of connecting in the right way. And then this toe kind of goes like that. These are not Stabilo pens. These are Edding E55s, Inky Drew. E55 fineliners. Really nice. I mean, these colors are just great, don't you think? So, all right, so I'm kind of cheating here because these bones, I said I was going to use a different color for each bone, and I clearly haven't because some of these kind of are one shape, but they're actually a bunch of little bones joined together. So, let's see, this one comes down, connects there, and now I will draw this toe in a different color, and finally, I can draw this fourth toe. And there. All right, so we've got that second leg done. So I could take some measurements here and I could say, okay, does that look right? If I drew some shapes across it, I think it's pretty good. I think it's reasonable. It's reasonable. And all I can do is be reasonable. Isn't that reasonable? I think so. Let's start drawing these ribs now. There's a rib. And see, by looking at each individual rib, I'm not just going to draw a bunch of lines. I'm going to look at each rib, and I'm going to look at the angle, and I'm going to look at where does it intersect the little kind of sail thing there, fin. What did we call this? I forget anyway. And where does it intersect this upper arm? And now I've got another third rib here. Pretty good. And so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's easy to lose your way in this ribs. It's like a rack of ribs, making me want to have barbecue. Not sure I would want to have triceratops barbecue, but I don't know. Now you can see I'm starting to have a problem, which is I'm not making these ribs big enough and meaty enough to fill in this whole overall shape of this rib cage, because I want to make sure that they fill in the rib cage. Because I want, so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the back here. See, there's this piece here that kind of came underneath and went back. I didn't get that. So that piece at the back now is kind of the back part of the rib cage. So I'm going to come through and draw that, and then I'm going to work my way back. Because I was just getting nervous that I did not have these things being long enough. So now I'm making some that are meatier. Not meteor. You don't want to mention meteors around dinosaurs. Or is it a comet? What was the thing that killed them? Meteors or comets? Yeah, so there you go. So we've got that rib cage more or less done. No, I haven't actually. There's still a couple of ribs further back. But I can tell that because I have this piece here that came out of the back of the skull. And that's acting as my guide, you see. That's good to know that I have that. I have this piece back here. But you notice that these ribs, as they get to the back, are shorter. They don't come down as far. So you want to make sure you get that correct. Or not. I mean, you could freeform it. You could just put in 200 ribs if you wanted to, and you could make them of all different lengths. It's your triceratops. You decide. But if you want to be accurate for some reason, you can. Okay, so I think there's maybe room for one more back here. Yeah, see, I look at this bottom here and I say, oh boy, these ribs are just going up in the sky here. It's not good. It's not what I intended, but I'm sort of okay with the fact that this dinosaur might be a little janky, a little out of proportion. It's okay. So, all right, so there's this rib cage. I think that that's okay. See, this is the part that's problematic. Right here, looking at that way that bone sticks back, that elbow, and then the shape of this, not quite the same. Not quite the same, but... All right, so now I'm going to draw this pelvic bone, which is kind of bigger. And arcs back there. Part of it is hidden behind this. Yeah, there's that hole there. It's kind of hidden behind there a little bit. And now we're going to draw this big thigh bone. You heard that ringing sound behind me? That is the sound of a pug drinking water. Hey, that's a lot of water. Hey, are you really thirsty? All right, keep drinking. And this kind of shin bone is a bit more delicate. But now let's have a look. You see, I should have made, something's going on back here. See how this gap is way wider on mine than it is in the photo? Yeah, so I don't know. That's the problem, is when you do something like this, there are 1,000 mistakes you could have made, 1,000 places you could have thrown off the proportion. Yeah. Deb says she's got lost. Yeah, there's a lot of ribs going on there, a lot of stuff going on. It's okay. You can always give it fewer ribs or give it more ribs. It's up to you. I think the real fun of this is imagine like when they found these bones, you know, they just find them as like some kind of pile of bones and then they have to figure out how to put it all together. I just don't understand how they do that. It's extraordinary. But in a way, that's what we're doing too. We're putting it together bone by bone, like a jigsaw puzzle or a crossword puzzle, right? You're just doing each clue. And sometimes it's like if you measure slightly wrong, throws off the one next to it, and then it all starts to add up. So don't worry about it. But just know that if that happens, it's almost impossible to, see how I almost left out this other bone. There's this other bone coming back down here. And then it goes back out and then connects up there. As I was saying, it's almost impossible to get every single measurement correct. So what you could do, I mean, there's a whole other way of approaching this, which is to say, I'm not going to draw it bone by bone. I'm going to draw the overall shape, and then I'm going to go in and I'm going to fill it in with the bones. There's a different way of doing it. You might end up with a more accurate depiction. But I look at this and I look back at him in the photo and I think, yeah, it's not terribly off. It's not horrendously off. Okay, so now we've got this tail, which is really made of a lot of little tiny bones. And it's hard to even tell in the photo what's going on, and I'm not going to drive myself nuts with that. I'm just going to sort of assume certain things about it, which is that each of these is sort of a parallel little shape. It seems to arc above the midline, and then it comes down below. And I can't even tell how many there are, looking at this little picture on the screen, so don't worry about it. Let's just try and fill it in and think again about the overall proportion and the overall shape. Like, how long is this whole tail in the picture? It's not terribly long. It's sort of, let me just see, it's like the length of, it's sort of the length of this bone. That's more or less how it is. So I'll just make it kind of that length, and I'll just keep adding in little shapes and little bones until I have it more or less worked out. Maybe one more, just to make it feel complete. All right, so now he seems to have a leg back here, but I can't really see the details of it. So I think I'll just kind of draw in just generally a shape back here, just so it doesn't look like he's a triceratops because he only has 3 legs. Not sure why they call triceratops. Is it because they only have 3 legs? No. Nonsense. But, all right, so there's my rainbow triceratops, little known subspecies. But he looks like fairly planted. Looks fairly, meaty. I think it's good. I think it's fine. All right. 3 horns. So where's the third horn? Oh, this is the third horn. Horn, horn, and horn. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Kelly says he's doing a handstand. In a way he is. Because he's missing a leg? I don't know. All right. So, all right, good. Let's move on. Are you guys ready? We're going to move on. We're moving on, and we're going to try. I don't know if we have time for this, but this is a T-Rex. Yeah, that's a lot of bones. A lot of bones. Let's see how far we can get. We've got about 15 minutes. Let's see if we can get 3 minutes in. 15 minutes in. So I'm going to draw him across here, across this whole length. I will say, Deb says, ask if we're doing 2. Yes, I think that's what I said at the beginning. We're going to do 2. So if you have a chance to go to a museum of natural history, take the time to draw one of their dinosaurs if they have them. I've drawn dinosaurs in the Field Museum in Chicago and I've drawn them in the Museum of Natural History in New York, and it is really fun. It is way better than drawing from a photograph. When you're standing underneath this giant beast and you're drawing him in all of his glory, it is really good. And then you can really see the details and just have a really good experience and really, really understand him or her. And see what. In fact, the one in the Field Museum is called Sue, I think, right? Isn't it Sue? So I guess it is a female. I don't know how they know that. But yeah, so this one it's more complex, and so therefore I am being a little less specific. But sometimes that can actually help. It can help you to just kind of move through it without thinking too much. So this is a super complicated skull. Those are some serious teeth. And then okay, so now I'm coming back down. I'm going to start drawing the front of the lower jaw, arcing down here. And again, I want to look at where does these teeth kind of line up here. So his lower jaw seems almost like he has, I'm sure his jaws meet perfectly, but I don't know if he had some sort of prehistoric orthodonture, or if it looks kind of like his upper jaw might have been hung over the lower jaw. So he was kind of like bucktooth, famous bucktooth Tyrannosaurus. Bucky the T-Rex. Don't call him Bucky, though. It's very easily offended. All right, so that's more or less that. Yeah, that looks good enough for government work. And now let's get into doing these little vertebra. This guy has a very, very complex set of ribs. I mean, look, these ribs or neck bones or whatever the hell they are, they're starting almost like fish bones here. Like that. Fish bones. Again, looking at the negative space, looking at that shape down here, because I want to make sure that these things all kind of join up. You can see this bone is thicker at the top. There's just too many bones in here to even get too crazy about them. Yeah, I mean, there's thousands of little tiny bones in here. What a nightmare. Why are kids so obsessed with dinosaurs? Right? That's the thing I remember. I mean, my son was totally into them, and it just seems like a very kind of, 9-year-old, 6 to 9-year-old kid, very into learning about dinosaurs. I mean, they are kind of fascinating, and they're huge. A lot of them are huge. So that's part of what it is, probably. But all right, I'm going to stop switching pens because this is too much. This is too hard. I'm just going to get into. I'm going to pick just the gray pen because doing a separate color for each one of these things is driving me nuts and slowing me down. So, so where am I? So he's kind of got this sort of shoulder blade here. And then it kind of comes down to sort of like a little chest plate almost. So this is almost like a wishbone. Maybe that's what it is. It's like a little wishbone. Kind of slightly nauseating idea. T-Rex wishbone. I thought I was going to just do one color. What are you doing? You're right. I'm just going to go back to doing one color. Drive myself a bit nuts there. Yeah, that's much faster. Okay, so there's that rib, that wishbone thing. There's a few little lines underneath there. And then the wishbone comes back up here. I think it's actually even a more extreme angle than I made it. And then there's these little arms that come down. There's little, they call, this T-Rex arms. Have you ever heard somebody referred to as having T-Rex arms when it comes to paying the bill? Like you go out with a bunch of friends to a restaurant and they bring the bill, and one of your friends who's sitting near the bill has T-Rex arms, meaning like his arms are too short to reach his wallet. Oh, I can't reach it. Would you mind taking care of this? What's going on back here? So there's one thing that comes straight, and then you can see a bit of his spine underneath there. So there's a bit of spine going on back there. Oof, this is hard. It's not hard, but it's just there's just a lot to it. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the details. And because I look at his overall, at this way that this thing arcs down, it should be way, way more down here. Don't you think? It should be swooping way back down here. So I gotta fix that by maybe adding some additional ribs. I don't know. I just want to kind of create that overall shape so that it looks like he has a proper chest as opposed to whatever the hell I was doing. And yeah, this is very tempting to just say I'm not going to try and draw bone by bone here. I'm just going to kind of draw the mass of bones, and that's okay. If you get sick of it, don't give up. Just kind of fudge it. It's okay. Because now looking at this distance between this bone here, which is this shoulder bone, and the pelvis, right? So it's basically the same as this length of his neck. And so I can now draw this pelvis. That's an ugly looking pelvis. It's not a sophisticated looking piece of machinery. It almost feels like, wow, is this all part of his pelvis? This whole kind of weird thing that comes down? It seems like it might be. And then there's this bone here. It's like, that is a really crazy looking pelvis. But it seems like that's what the case is. And then there's this kind of free floating bone in here. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Again, this is another reason why it is much better to draw from life. So, again, if we were in a museum we could go up, we could look at this properly, and we could see what exactly we had to deal with here. Whereas with this little photo on the monitor, it is not the same experience, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. All right, so now I'm all the way back at the tail. I'm a little worried that his body is not the right length. Look at his neck. His head is 1, 2. So it should be 2 head lengths. Oh, and it works. You see? This is the kind of thing that happens when you measure. So you measure his head, and you go, okay, there's the skull length. Now I take that measurement, I go once, twice, and it goes from, and that is correct. That is more or less how it should be. So I was right. Okay, so this bone back here that looks like a free-floating bone is actually his other leg, because you can see it's sticking down here. And then what looks almost like a chicken's claw, because of course dinosaurs are just big birds, big old birds. And there are his claws. So, yeah, it seems reasonable. Whoops, you couldn't even see it. But yeah, there's the chicken claw. Okay, so let's have a look at this whole bone thing. Pretty good. And then I think we're just ready to do this pelvis is probably a bit bigger than I made it. You might have some back pain if you had this pelvis configuration that I've given him. But let's look at these individual vertebrae back here, these tail bones. They are all kind of the same shape, but they're kind of 2 pieces. There's the thing that comes down, and then there's the thing that connects in the middle, and then there's a little bit of a fin at the top. And I want to not go too far without getting this back leg done. And seeing this is one bone here. There's kind of like his ankle. And the bones themselves they come straight down. Top of the foot comes straight down, and then it hits the ground and has these claws in the front. So that foot is very vertical. Okay, now let's do this deal with his tail. Again, how long is this whole tail? The length of the tail from the pelvis to the tip is the same as from so it's from here to here. This length is the same as the length of the tail. So the tail's going to come back to about here. So I'm just going to freeform that. Just kind of make up some shapes and try and fill it in. Looking back, but I can't be bothered to draw every single individual bone perfectly. So I'm just going to sort of kind of repeat that little shape and just keep making it smaller as we get closer to the tip here. Okay, let's have a look at the whole guy. I think the only part that seems a bit strange to me right now is this. It feels like these guys were probably too big. He looks a little runty, I think, but now I look back at him and he does look a bit runty. So I think it's not inaccurate. I'm going to take this picture away for a second. Do you mind? This, again, I'll post these both on our in the community section here on YouTube, so you can look at these pictures, okay? And I will give you links to them too. Will I? Yeah, I think I'll give you links. So there we have the overall thing. Two multicolored dinosaurs. And yeah, I'm pleased with them. That was fun, and it was just a good thing to draw with a fineliner because it is individual shapes, and fineliner is great at that. So yeah, that's it. I will share these with you. If you are watching the recording, then you'll be able to go. And if so James is asking, do I list the reference photos? I will post them on our community thing, and I'll post links to them in the notes below. So I will do that after we're finished here. Whew. Woof, that was fun. I feel like I was holding my breath through a lot of that. Are you? Sometimes I get like that. I'm just like, draw each thing. All right, thank you for joining me. Let's move on to just our last bit of information. Again, if you would like to get some of these pens, trust me, they're really fun, and I love these colors. And I just like the feeling of drawing with them, really nice. And they also are, they don't bleed through the paper or anything like that. Just very nice drawing experience. The Edding E55s, you can also buy them, of course, but if you wanted to get them, or to be included in the drawing of, I think, 3 that we're giving away, 3 kits, write to us at info@sketchbookskool.com, or and send us your mailing address. Don't forget your mailing address, because if you write to us and you don't put your mailing address, we can't mail them to you if you win. So I'd also like to see your dinosaur bones, so please share them on Facebook or on Instagram or in the schoolyard and tag it, hashtag SBS, that's Sketchbook School, SBS Draw With Me. I write an essay every Friday. I'll be writing one tomorrow. And if you'd like to get it for free, sign up at dannysessays.com. And if you'd like to get the book of essays, it's a paperback. It's not very expensive. You can also get it as an ebook. Go to dannygregory.com and get yours. And if you do read it and you do get it, let me know what you think. Or send me a picture of you with a book, or your dog with a book, or your cat with a book, or your dinosaur with a book. And I'd love to see who's reading it. And subscribe to this channel so that you can be reminded again of when we do this again, which we will every Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific. Also, I've been sharing a lot of video essays recently. I hadn't been doing them for a little while, and I've been back with a vengeance. So if you subscribe to our channel, you can see those. And I'd love to know what you think of those too. Whew, that's a lot. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks to Edding for sponsoring today. And I hope you had fun. I can't wait to see your dinosaurs. Bye-bye.